Nature is pleased with simplicity, and nature is no dummy.
Have not the small particles of bodies certain powers, virtues, or forces by which they act at a distance, not only upon the rays of light for reflecting, refracting, and reflecting them, but also upon one another for producing a great part of the phenomena of nature? God could vary the laws of nature and make worlds of several sorts in several parts of the universe. Nature does nothing in vain when less will serve, for nature is pleased with simplicity and affects not the pomp of superfluous causes. The changing of bodies into light and light into bodies is very conformable to the course of nature, which seems delighted with transmutations. The latest authors, like the most ancient, strove to subordinate the phenomena of nature to the laws of mathematics.
The seed of a tree has the nature of a branch or twig or bud. While it grows upon the tree, it is a part of the tree. But if separated and set in the earth to be better nourished, the embryo or young tree contained in it takes root and grows into a new tree. Whence is it that nature does nothing in vain, and whence arises all that order and beauty which we see in the world?
If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants.
I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people.
What we know is a drop. What we don't know is an ocean. Tact is the knack of making a point without making an enemy.
Gravity explains the motions of the planets, but it cannot explain who sets the planets in motion. Truth is ever to be found in the simplicity, and not in the multiplicity and confusion of things. No great discovery was ever made without a bold guess. A man may imagine things that are false, but he can only understand things that are true.
This most beautiful system of the sun, planets, and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. This being governs all things, not as the soul of the world, but as Lord over all. And on account of his dominion he is wont to be called Lord God Pandocrator, or Universal Ruler. Trials are medicines which our gracious and wise physician prescribes because we need them, and he proportions the frequency and weight of them to what the case requires. Let us trust his skill and thank him for his prescription. How came the bodies of animals to be contrived with so much art, and for what ends were their several parts? Was the eye contrived without skill in optics, and the ear without knowledge of sounds? And these things being rightly dispatched, does it not appear from phenomena that there is a being incorporeal, living, intelligent? To explain all nature is too difficult a task for any one man, or even for any one age. 'Tis much better to do a little with certainty, and leave the rest for others that come after, than to explain all things by conjecture, without making sure of anything. God without dominion, providence, and final causes is nothing else but fate and nature. Blind metaphysical necessity, which is certainly the same always and everywhere, could produce no variety of things. All that diversity of natural things which we find suited to different times and places could arise from nothing but the ideas and will of a being necessarily existing. Sir Isaac Newton, 1642, 1747. About the times of the end, a body of men will be raised up who will turn their attention to the prophecies and insist upon their literal interpretation in the midst of much clamor and opposition. Truth is the offspring of silence and meditation. I keep the subject constantly before me and wait till the first dawnings open slowly, by little and little, into a full and clear light. What Descartes did was a good step. You have added much several ways, and especially in taking the colors of thin plates into philosophical consideration. If I have seen a little further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. God, who gave animals self-motion beyond our understanding, is without doubt able to implant other principles of motion in bodies, which we may understand as little. Some would readily grant this may be a spiritual one, yet a mechanical one might be shown. Did not I think it better to pass it by? A vulgar mechanic can practice what he has been taught or seen done, but if he is in an error, he knows not how to find it out and correct it, and if you put him out of his road, he is at a stand. Whereas he that is able to reason nimbly and judiciously about figure, force, and motion is never at rest till he gets over every rub.
This principle of nature being very remote from the conceptions of philosophers, I forbore to describe it in that book, lest I should be accounted an extravagant freak, and so prejudice my readers against all those things which were the main design of the book. Resistance is usually ascribed to bodies at rest, and impulse to those in motion. But motion and rest, as commonly conceived, are only relatively distinguished, nor are those bodies always truly at rest, which commonly are taken to be so. That one body should act upon another through a vacuum without the mediation of anything else is so great an absurdity that no man suited to do science can ever fall into it. Gravity must be caused by an agent. But whether that agent be material or immaterial, I leave to my readers. We account the scriptures of God to be the most sublime philosophy. I find more sure marks of authenticity in the Bible than in any profane history whatever. This most elegant system of the sun, planets, and comets could not have arisen without the design and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being, for it became Him, God, who created them, the atoms, to set them in order. And if He did so, it's unphilosophical to seek for any other origin of the world, or to pretend that it might arise out of a chaos by the mere laws of nature. I do not know what I may appear to the world, but to myself I seem to have been only like a boy playing on the seashore, and diverting myself in now and then finding a smoother pebble or a prettier shell than ordinary, whilst the great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before me. In experimental philosophy, we are to look upon propositions inferred by general induction from phenomena as accurately or very nearly true, notwithstanding any contrary hypotheses that may be imagined, till such time as other phenomena occur, by which they may either be made more accurate or liable to exceptions. This rule we must follow, that the argument of induction may not be evaded by hypotheses. Atheism is so senseless. When I look at the solar system, I see the Earth at the right distance from the Sun to receive the proper amounts of heat and light. This did not happen by chance. This most beautiful system of the Sun, planets, and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. And if the fixed stars are the centers of other like systems, these being formed by the likewise counsel must be all subject to the dominion of one. We are to admit no more causes of natural things than such as are both true and sufficient to explain their appearances.
Deus é capaz de criar partículas de matéria de diversos tamanhos e formas, e talvez de diferentes densidades e forças, e, portanto, de variar as leis da natureza e fazer mundos de diversos tipos em várias partes do universo. Pelo menos não vejo contradição alguma em tudo isso.
Hypotheses non fingo, Latin for I feign no hypotheses, I frame no hypotheses, or I contrive no hypotheses. To explain all nature is too difficult a task for any one man, or even for any one age. 'Tis much better to do a little with certainty, and leave the rest for others that come after you, than to explain all things by conjecture without making sure of anything. If I have come further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. God gave the prophecies, not to gratify men's curiosity by enabling them to foreknow things, but that after they were fulfilled, they might be interpreted by the event, and His own providence, not the interpreter's, be thereby manifested to the world, the one as much as it advances that of the other. If a body impinge upon another, and by its force change the motion of the other, that body also, because of the equality of the mutual pressure, will undergo an equal change in its own motion towards the contrary part. To explain all nature is too difficult a task for any one man, or even for any one age. It is much better to do a little with certainty and leave the rest for others who come after you. If I have seen a little further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. From a letter to Robert Hooke, dated February 5th, 1676. The metaphor was first recorded in 1159 by John of Salisbury and attributed to Bernard of Chartres. Dicebat Bernardus Carnotensis nos esse quasi nanos, gigantium humeris incidentes, ut possimus plura eis et remotiora videre, non utique proprii visus acumine, aut eminentia corporis, sed quia in altum subvenimur et extollimur magnitudine gigantea. Gravity must be caused by an agent acting constantly according to certain laws, but whether this agent be material or immaterial, I have left to the consideration of my readers. I do not know what I may appear to the world, but to myself, I seem to have been only like a boy playing on the seashore and diverting myself in now and then finding a smoother pebble or a prettier shell than ordinary, whilst the great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before me. The other part of the true religion is our duty to man. We must love our neighbor as ourselves. We must be charitable to all men. For charity is the greatest of graces, greater than even faith or hope, and covers a multitude of sins. We must be righteous and do to all men as we would they should do to us.